Thought to have evolved from prehistoric aquatic lizards, the vicious reptiles have always managed to give us a slithery shock, either by their sheer size or by heart-pounding meetings. So, hold your breath to watch some of the scariest snake encounters ever caught on camera. A tourist couple exploring the Amazon stumbled upon a giant anaconda parting the waves with its sheer size. Enamored and impressed with its size, they redirected their boat to follow the anaconda. And this is when things took a scary turn. The anaconda, which had just eaten, judging by the bulge, was clearly in no mood to stay, which is where the guy stepped in and made the biggest nope I've ever seen. He grabbed the anaconda by its tail to prevent it from swimming away. He let go once he had his fun, but I'll tell you why it's never a good idea to do this to anacondas. As placid as they can be, anacondas can be seriously stressed out when something intimidates or directly touches them while they're eating. This prompts the anaconda to quickly regurgitate all of its stomachs and take a defensive stance that no one will like. A plump feast. Here is another one in the middle of digesting prey, which means this anaconda has been a very, very bad snake and is hiding probably a goat or a cow in there.
5 metros de comprimento, barriga cheia.
The anaconda was discovered by a bunch of boaters exploring the Brazilian Aquatic River, and I can tell they're pretty excited about the find.
Aí, gurizada. Aí, Longuinho, Benê, Rio aqui da Ana.
However, I wouldn't recommend getting this close to an anaconda, even if it's in the middle of digesting a great meal. While anacondas rarely react when they're eating, the slightest nudge can agitate them, in which case they'll quickly spit out their food and focus on whatever disturbed them. In this case, us!
Esse a gente não pode brincar. Abraço, gurizada.
Active predator. Check out this behemoth. Casually resting close to a swamp in Rio Bonito. Now, before you argue that the anaconda only looks big because it was filmed from that angle, you should know locals later went on to the exact spot and found the same anaconda resting. And it truly was as huge as it seemed. The anaconda spanned several feet and was later estimated to be around 25 feet or more. But let's focus on the bulge here, because the middle of an anaconda's body gives us a great clue about what to do when you meet one. Considering the bulge, although not too much, the anaconda is almost done with its meal, which means it's only waiting for the next one. Hidden threat. Watch this anaconda casually sauntering across the forest as if it's not a mighty predator, one decision away from engulfing you whole. And I can't even fathom who in their right mind would be willing enough to film this giant predator from up close. Just seeing it writhing like that makes my skin crawl. But you're not ready for what lies ahead. Watch where the anaconda disappears to. That's right. This anaconda is digging its way into the ground, possibly to hide there. Anacondas typically seek shelter when they're eating something, or when they're about to. But considering this hideout takes the hide a bit too seriously, I will never trust the ground I walk on again. Well, that's a new fear unlocked. Indian demise. This colossal snake was captured by construction workers while working on a house in an Indian village. The terrifying creature had suddenly emerged from the ground and was close to making it out until the workers spotted it. The snake had sneaked into the village to get a bite and managed to devour an entire cow, which is why you're seeing a huge bulge in its middle. With a snake that big, at this point you might as well just call it a day and leave the house to the snake. Serpentine mystery. Brace yourselves, folks. This is a snake no one wants to see when they step out of the house. Filmed a decade and a half ago somewhere in the United States, the giant snake spanned several meters. Now, I don't know how the cameraman could film this, but I would have bolted out of there just as I saw the snake's tail. The video cuts off, but it was later revealed the snake had made its way from a nearby farm where it was hiding to prey on the farm animals. Well, that explains its size. It was captured and released into the wild. Entangled together. Remember that scene in the Anaconda movie when the Behemoth tackled the boater by hiding right below the boat's hull? Well, something tells me this guy has never watched that movie. This boater ended up cruising right into some marshes, and that's where most of us would have backed out. But before he could, something rocked his boat, literally. And here's the giant that's making all this commotion. Luckily, this Anaconda was probably full and only needed to go somewhere to rest. Otherwise, hungry anacondas won't hesitate to grab people and swallow them whole. I'm just impressed with its sheer size. Clearing the marsh in its wake, this guy's lucky the Anaconda didn't reverse. An unbelievable stretch. It's not every day you get to hold a colossal predator in your hands, and it's not something most of us would want to do either. But an American adventurer, Forrest Galanti, ventured into reptilian waters to seek one apex, an anaconda. Galanti and his team weren't just seeking the river sweller for thrills. The team, along with Galanti, specializes in wildlife biology and frequently chase thrilling animals to learn more about them. And here, they've found one of their biggest yet. This anaconda measures as long as 19 feet and is quite tenacious.
Coiled, this first third is the strongest third.
Yep, I got her.
We can get her chunk of her body into the boat, guys.
With great expertise, Galanti managed to subdue the anaconda, and carefully and gently, the team extracted some samples from the anaconda's mouth and skin. They quickly let it go, and it slithered away into a safe hiding spot. Skyscraper snake. A reticulated python slithered its way into a construction site in Malaysia and frightened workers who rightly dropped everything and sought their manager for help. The authorities quickly rushed to the site to capture the python that was declared the longest ever captured in the country. After ensuring it was well hydrated, the team sedated the python and picked it up to transport it to a sanctuary. That's when they realized this behemoth weighed a quarter ton. Although pythons aren't strangers to the country, most people wondered why they sought out workers when they could have easily stayed hidden. Well, the python laid eggs a few days after its capture, which explained why the animal appeared to be so agitated. Predator restrained. Dubbed the Snake Master, Austin Stevens ventured in search of a python that had been terrorizing nearby villages for a while. Sniffing out the python didn't take too long, as he was able to spot signs along the way that led him right into the python's lair. But bringing it out of the muddy water was a real challenge.
Look here, right in front of me. I'm not even seeing it. Look here. Bring the camera here.
After a struggling few minutes, Stevens managed to pull the python out. And my God, that's one python that has never slept hungry a day in its life.
And just look at the length. Now I can get a picture of that size.
Stevens dragged the python to a safer location where it tried to tackle him but failed. Don't worry though, the python wasn't harmed. Stevens simply subdued it and released it into a sanctuary.
Wow, just look at that threatening gait. That's his way of telling me that he's armed and dangerous.
Pudgy serpent. As much as it looks like one, this diver isn't capturing stunning pictures of a rock, but an actual anaconda, and one that's very, very full. This tour guide managed to capture the most incredible moment when a well-fed anaconda quickly grabbed his attention. The imposing reptile might look dangerous, but this one was just having a good time after a heavy meal, as it takes time to slowly digest their meal. Sometimes they rest for several days. Most anacondas won't bother any animal or human when they're eating, so the divers, though stepping into dangerous territory, are making a smart choice. A green threat. One of the largest anacondas ever discovered spanned close to over 30 feet. But while we give winners a lot of attention, we should really focus on the runner-ups, because they might place second, but they're still too huge. Just like this anaconda tucked away behind tall grass in Rio Formoso, Bonito, Brazil. It might look a bit too small from here, but just wait for the camera to capture its stretch. That's right, this anaconda doesn't seem to have an end. And to make matters even more exciting, this anaconda is coiled in some places, so it's much bigger than it looks. In fact, the tourists who came across this anaconda estimate it measured somewhere close to 29 feet. That's as long as a school bus. Halfway feast. Have you ever bitten off more than you can chew? This snake has.
Olha aqui pescando no Rio Corumbá, olha o tamanho da criança, olha aqui.
Seriously, didn't its mother teach it a thing or two about portion control? Because I'm no genius, but whatever it has eaten is easily half its size. That's like me trying to eat a nightstand. At least this one won't go hungry for a while. Robust reptile. Alright, I'll be the first one to say this, but if you ever spot a snake, no matter how big or small, it's better to back up. Seriously, I can't decide if the cameraman filming this giant snake is a die-hard adventure seeker or someone who simply doesn't understand how dangerous it is to follow a massive snake like that. Just look at its girth, easily measuring over 6 feet. And yes, that's a rough estimate because from the cameraman's angle, you really can't see how long it really is.
Provavelmente deve ter em torno de uns 7 metros.
Curvaceous threat. You're probably wondering why I'm showing you a random shot of a man filming a small creek in the woods. Well, take a closer look at what lies beneath. This curvy fella is casually lying in the creek and has almost blended in. I had to double take to actually spot it, and then the rest of it simply unfolded right in front of my eyes.
Os animais aqui, isso aqui sobe capivara, porco.
We may think they're just slithery beings, but snakes occasionally find hidden spots like this and use the environment to blend in. The minute their prey lands close enough to any part of their body, they strike, either by injecting their venom or constricting them. This gives us a much better idea of the grave situation this guy is in.
E em tocaia, esperando sua presa subir por aqui.
The basilisk.
Uma imensa. Olha o tamanho desse gigante.
This is Vilmar de Oliveira, a popular adventurer and conservationist who manages to capture enthralling creatures, most of which tend out to be apex predators. And here is one of Vilmar's most impressive captures, a giant, truly magnificent snake, whose girth can terrorize people like me from just a video. Seriously, what does this guy eat? It's like it survives on the souls of other creatures. At this point, you might as well even call it a basilisk, specifically the one that rages after Harry Potter, because I can't find any other that meets the requirements. Hats off to Vilmar, though. I don't doubt his job is tough.
Pneu de caminhão.
Unnecessarily endless. Some tunnels don't seem to end. Watching this anaconda is like watching one of those flawless gifts where you never know when the end is coming. Seriously, I'm kind of mesmerized by its size. It takes a lot to be this huge, even for an anaconda. According to some experts, this particular anaconda might be one of the largest and longest ever recorded. And I think it has plans to reach even newer heights. In fact, it's so big, it takes a while for the anaconda to reach its destination because it has to wait for its tail to make up its head. Yet, despite its monstrous size, the anaconda manages to perfectly hide beneath the grass, which tells you a lot about this ambush predator. Well, that's one reason not to touch grass. Mid-meal encounter.
Aqui tá a sucuri avistada, sucuri gigante.
You're watching one of the most terrifying and monstrous creatures on the planet right in the middle of digestion. That's right. If this anaconda wasn't terrifying enough, a glance at its squirming stomach is enough to make most look away in disgust. You might think its wiggling stomach is creepy, but just look under the water here. That's right, we can't even fathom the size of this anaconda because more than half of it is hiding under the tranquil waves. And when this anaconda is done digesting at least half of what it's eating, it quickly slithers away into comfort, where it will spend the rest of the week savoring whatever poor creature ended up facing its wrath. Asphalt serpent. I don't know what this snake is up to, where it's heading, and why it's even waiting for the car to pass. All I know is if I were the one driving, I would step on the gas pedal long before a passenger could record the snake. And then this guy even stops right in front of the terrifying creature. It's almost like they don't have any survival skills. Well, that's where I would dip. Prioritize your safety, guys. Loving embrace. Is this an anaconda with a really tiny face? How is that possible? Well, this might not look that interesting, but once you find out the truth, it will blow your mind. You see, normally most people would assume that it's a regular-sized anaconda that's simply bloated from eating. But focus a little more and you'll see these are actually two anacondas, a smaller one resting atop the bigger one. And here is where actually everything becomes interesting. This is actually an anaconda with probably her own child. Anacondas, like many other snake species, exhibit very little parental care. The mother usually leaves and does not provide care or protection for her offspring. So one anaconda to stay with her kids is something that will stump most biologists. Colossal catch.
Pretty much 17 foot. He's lost a bit of his tail there.
Let's shift gears to the rugged Australian outback. Here, Matt Wright, the famed outback wrangler, faced a colossal challenge. A 5-meter crocodile rex had been terrorizing local farmers, going after their cattle, and always evading its capture. This wasn't just any croc. Rex was a behemoth, even with a chunk of its tail missing, suggesting this creature was no stranger to battles. With precision and expertise, Wright managed to secure Rex, ensuring the safety of both the crocodile and the local community. The image of Rex, bound and on a trailer with a blanket over its face and duct tape around its mouth, is something straight out of a wildlife documentary. But here's the twist. Wright didn't just capture Rex, he gave this giant a new lease on life. Instead of disposing off the animal like others suggested, Wright simply took him to his own sanctuary where Rex still lives. Rapid reptile. A boater and his dog were peacefully navigating the river when suddenly a crocodile, previously lounging nearby, snapped into action. With astonishing speed, it surged towards the boat. Crocodiles, known for their explosive power in water, can perceive boats as threats or rivals in their territory. This one, with its primal instincts triggered, was giving a terrifying demonstration of its capabilities. The boater, now in a frantic race, felt the raw power of nature at its heels. It's a heart-stopping moment, realizing just how fast these creatures can be. But as quickly as the chase started, it ended. The crocodile, perhaps recognizing its mistake or losing interest, ceased its pursuit, leaving behind a very terrified boater. Giant's gourmet. Let me tell you, it takes a lot to muster enough courage to hand-feed a descendant of a dinosaur.
Oh.
And yet here is Mr. Ambo. an Indonesian adventurer who has picked up a rather peculiar hobby. He likes to head to the local river and feed Riska, crocodile he has been taking care of for over 26 years. Riska is 4 meters long. At the moment, it is estimated she will grow much bigger. And here's where it gets emotional. Riska was the one who approached Mr. Ambo almost 3 decades ago when she was just 1 meter long, presumably abandoned by her crew and in search of food. Ever since then, the duo has been inseparable. And yet, as heartwarming as the story is, I just can't fathom how you dare enough to approach a wild animal, especially an apex predator.
Habisi dulu nak, habisi dulu lah ya, habisi dulu ya. Jangan papi ku aku itu.
Behemoth bagging. An Indonesian man named Yusman did something pretty extraordinary as he caught a 4 meter long crocodile all by himself, armed with nothing but a rope. This wasn't just a random act of bravery. He took action because the croc was seen as a threat to the community's safety and livelihood. For 2 days, this massive reptile had been lurking around, causing concern among the locals, so he skillfully managed to subdue and capture the croc. Yet getting it up the loader was something he couldn't manage, so he called in to the locals, who, a little hesitantly, jumped into action. After the capture, the crocodile was handed over to the local Natural Resources Conservation Agency to be released back into the wild. Coiled romance. You know that saying, more tangled than a snake's courtship? Well, things here are a little steamy and complex. You're watching an anaconda reproduce. Well, close to it. This is a mating ball. It happens when a female anaconda signals she's ready to reproduce. The signal attracts all potential mates in the area, which curl up around her, hoping to be selected. The strongest and most persistent male usually succeeds in mating. Once the anaconda selects a mate, the two engage in reproduction. Naturally, the sight is quite intriguing and a little distasteful, to say the least. But this is just how nature proceeds. Titantail. Back in 2011 in the Philippines, the local folks and officials were facing a real giant of a problem. This wasn't just any problem. It was a lolong, an enormous saltwater crocodile measuring a staggering 6.17 meters, longer than most cars. Capturing lolong wasn't a walk in the park. It took about 3 weeks. They set up traps in the creek where lolong was hanging out. And you won't believe it, but it took around 100 people to finally secure this massive creature. And even then, it wasn't easy. Lolong quickly awoke and thrashed against its restraints, frightening people close by. Luckily, he was strapped in and impossible to escape. The sheer size of lolong was something else. He was not just big, he was record-breaking big, the largest crocodile in captivity. According to Guinness World Records, he remains the biggest crocodile ever captured. Snap escape. This photographer observing crocodiles was engrossed in taking pictures.
Hey, it's here.
Antonio!
A little too engrossed, might I add. At first, things were going smoothly as he was taking engaging snaps, and luckily, one of the crocodiles ventured close enough to get a good look. And here is where things went south. The photographer took his eyes off the crocodile for a minute, and it suddenly pounced at him. Luckily, he was warned with mere seconds to spare and managed to cheat the Grim Reaper. But that's a lesson well learned. Never turn your back on a predator.
You crazy, man.
You are crazy.
No, how you can stay there?
Aquatic anomaly. At first glance, you might think it's an anaconda because of its massive size and the immediate sense of alarm it evokes. However, it's not a giant snake, even though it closely resembles one. This creature, featured in a video that went viral, was claimed to be the world's largest eel. Viewers were quick to liken it to the great Abia, a mythical moray eel from the video game Stranded Deep. While many agree with this identification, I'm still not entirely convinced. Despite trying to dig deeper, details about who captured this footage or its exact location remain elusive. What's your take on it? Marine mayhem. Don't freak out, but there's something under this guy's boat. If you ask me, cruising along the river and facing such a creature would make me want to reverse, so I blame this guy. The minute his boat reached over the creature, it whisked away, rocking the boat in its wake and leaving several ripples in the water. What is it? Well, I believe this is a manatee, although the creature rarely interacts with humans and is typically very calm. Scaring one can result in instant thrashing and intense movements. So here it is, freaking out over the boater. River giants. A few brave explorers driven by curiosity and adventure dove into Brazilian waters for a close encounter with some remarkable reptiles. Their mission was to observe and document the anacondas in their natural environment. Remarkably, they came across several enormous anacondas, with some exceeding the largest sizes they had previously encountered. The smaller one measured about 10 meters in length, but the team's most significant find was a female anaconda stretching an impressive 18 feet and estimated to weigh over 300 pounds. The anaconda's calm demeanor is no coincidence. They specifically planned this venture during a time when the anacondas would be too full to actively seek prey, so they were quite safe, although I'm still on edge about their decision. A Titan being. While wandering through the grassy terrain of Ballito in South Africa, a tourist stumbled upon an astonishing sight. A giant python leisurely making its way across the landscape. The size of the python was immediately noticeable, even from a distance, with an estimated length of about 20 feet. This massive creature had paused to rest during its journey, prompting the curious tourist to move in for a closer look. It seems that this sudden movement might have startled the python, which was clearly unhappy about the surprise. In an instant, the gigantic snake swiftly vanished from view, blending seamlessly with its surroundings. A slip away. You might want to take a step back, folks, because this man is about to summon a beast. Whoa! The thrashing of the meat alerted the croc, and my God, I didn't even realize it was there. You don't even see the crocodile until quickly, and let me emphasize that, very quickly made its way to the man. Luckily, he was trained enough and casually handed the meat to the behemoth. But you know what two things I took from this video? Firstly, this croc has some insane horsepower. Seriously, someone should calculate its velocity because that croc reached the trainer in just a second. And secondly, and more importantly, I'm very uncomfortable with the fact this man was one accidental slip away from being a crocodile's meal.
He is one big lizard.
In the end, I do admire his courage. Not everyone would be able to handle a job where you have to regularly feed the crocs.
It's time for today's open discussion.
Guys, you're probably wondering what this giant bulge is. Well, this is an anaconda's stomach. Yes, you heard that right. And this was captured by Vilmar Dialverio, a popular adventurist who stumbles across anacondas and pythons from time to time.
Oh, it's a big snake. There's its head right there. Oh boy. Yeah, feisty, definitely feisty.
The anaconda's stomach is bloated because it has recently consumed an animal. That's why this one looks so fat. Vilmar had followed the anaconda after spotting it earlier, but the snake vanished until he finally managed to locate it under the swamp. The anaconda is probably hiding from view because it has only just eaten, so it can't defend itself against other animals and would rather lay low until it has digested enough to emerge. Well, either way, I'm glad the anaconda is full. I wouldn't want to encounter a hungry one. Thank you very much for watching the video. Do like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. Thank you once again.